All right. Welcome to this episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. Busy is not a disordered schedule or a to-do list. It is a disordered heart. Listen, I am here with a beautiful sister in the Lord and a client of mine, Lissa Figgins, and she is a master when it comes to time. As a midlife woman entrepreneur, Lissa has a lot on her plate. She's a wife, an empty nest mom, life coach, podcaster, women's ministry leader, mentor, and friend. At one point in her life, and see if you can relate, her life was just too busy, and she found herself showing up on the outside, but not being fully present. Something had to change because it was affecting her faith, her relationships, her work, wellness, her home, and ultimately her joy. Now, as a Christian time management coach, priorities protector, I love that title, recovering should do list girl, and the founder of Redeem Her Time Coaching, Lissa's mission is to inspire and equip Christian women entrepreneurs to go from busyness to fruitfulness in midlife and business. What she loves most is helping women like you discover that you really do have all the time you need for what God has called you to. Lissa is also a client of mine who just had her best launch ever. She literally more than 7x her investment in just about 2 months inside the Joyful Six Figures Accelerator. So let's welcome Lissa to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It is such an honor to be here. And yeah, I get to share a little bit about my story because I hear so many other amazing stories of women that you're working with.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive in. We just recorded my episode on your show, and I just love Lissa so much. We could just, it's like when you meet someone, even though we met virtually, I can't wait to meet you in person like soon, hopefully this year. And it just clicks. And it's just so good. So why don't you take us through your background? What led you here to doing this important work for midlife Christian entrepreneurial women?
Yeah. It's such a great thing to look back and see the journey that God has taken us on and to see how he perfectly ordained so many different things in our life to equip us for what he's called us to. And, sometimes I just say, God, I wish he would have just shown me when I was 18 that this is what I was going to do. I would have saved the money from college. I would have saved, the working for somebody else. I would have just jumped to this. This is great. Right. Like we say, we jump to grandkids if we could, but no, there is so much beauty that happens in going through the parenting stages. And the same thing is true in all of this, right? And so, yeah, I was an overachiever, in school and came out the top of my class and decided I was going to be a teacher because that was just a great mom job, right? And so I could be flexible around my kids. And I was married. Well, I still am married to a U.S. Army veteran. So he was serving active back then. And there was a lot of time when he would be gone for up to a year at a time. And I would have 3 kids, here on this side of the ocean by myself and not knowing where he was. We didn't have the same kind of communication that military wives have now, with their spouses when they're other places. And so a lot was on me and I just took it for the team, right? I'm just gonna, buckle down and just make this work. But I remember very clearly this one deployment. I remember my daughter was young enough to be on my hip. I can picture her still. I can picture me standing on, we had a split level. I will never get a split level again. Sorry to anybody who loves yours, but I can't stand when it's like a postage stamp, entranceway and I have to stand at the top of the stairs to greet my guests because otherwise there's not room for everybody. So anyway, I was on that set of stairs. Nobody was at the front door. And I remember just feeling like every single ball was dropping. Every single ball. Nothing was being done well. Nothing was staying in the air. And I was working hard. I mean, I was not the mom who was just binging, Netflix. We didn't even have Netflix back then, but, I was not sitting on the couch frittering my days away. I was working hard, right? And I was doing a lot of things. And honestly, I was wearing busy like a badge of honor. Like I think a lot of women do. And I think a lot of Christian women do, right? It makes us feel valued. It makes us feel important. It gives us identity, right? So whether it's busyness in a relationship or in service or in a business or in, whatever it is, for me, and looking I didn't see this at the time, but for me, it was staying busy kept me from having to deal with some of the harder things that were going on the inside. Right. Because if I kept busy, I just kept moving. Yeah, everything's great. Keep the smile on the face. And let's just, I don't have to get quiet with my own thoughts and fears and, all that stuff. And so, yeah, I finally got to this point where I realized I can't do it all. I can't. And I had been a believer for basically my whole life, right? I shared this with you when you were on my podcast. I wanted to call Jesus on the telephone at age 3. My mom's like, what do you want to ask him? I'm like, I wanted to come in my heart, right? Did I really understand? No, but I've just grown in that relationship since. So you know, and even still, right, I knew I could only do this with him. And yet I was still trying to do it all. Right. And it was just, I'm just going to work harder and I'm just going to do more and I'm going to get up earlier or stay up later or multitask even more to the max so I can fit more into these little cramped periods of time that I had in between, all these different things. And literally I was just frustrated, right? Overwhelmed, exhausted. I was showing up. Here's the thing. I was showing up places and most people would look at me on the outside and be like, wow, how does she do it all? People would often say to me, right, how do you do it with your husband deployed on the other side of the world? And you just basically have to do everything and you just do it, right? You just do it and God just gives you what you can. But the thing of it is that I was there on the outside. I was showing up to church. I was taking my kids to their activities. I was doing the do on the outside, but I wasn't really fully present inside.
Mm.
Right? Like with myself, with the Lord, even in, those relationships that I said were so important, right? And they were what mattered most, and yet they weren't really getting any of me. And it was just an external thing. And I knew I couldn't keep that up. And I always just felt like there was never enough time and there was never enough of me. Right. And there was just constantly expectations. I call them the shuns: expectations, obligations, and distractions. Expectations are the things from around me that other people think I should do. Right. I give into that because I'm a people pleaser. I was an A student. I would have to work harder to fail a class than to actually get the A, right? Because I just did what needed to be done. Then we have the obligations. Those are the things I think I should do from the inside. So yeah, I probably put more pressure on myself from the inside than all those other people outside did. And then let's just be honest, we have a lot of distractions in this world, a lot of shiny objects. We have these devices that follow us around now 24/7 that we didn't have back in the day. And, all kinds of, things and people and places that we can spend our time or waste our time and whatever. And I was literally the pinball reacting to whichever shun happened to be, demanding my time and attention. And so, yeah, it just got to the point where I was like, I can't keep up at this place. And so I wish I could say, yeah, I've been doing this all right. But it really took me getting to that place of like, I give, I can't do this anymore. Lord, take me away. But yeah, just God, what does this look like? And what do you have for me? And how do you want me to live? And it really started shifting where my focus was, what my priorities were, what my purpose was. And, and then from there, where my time was going. And just over the years, I've worked with Christian women in various settings, whether I've been leading them or teaching them or coaching them, for over 25 years. And one of the things that I kept hearing over and over again was, I'm busy. Life is busy. How are you? You ask your friend at church, how's life? Oh, busy, busy, busy. And she just has this big smile on her face, like it's this great thing, right? And I'm like, really? Is that really what God has for us? Does he want his daughters just to be busy, all the time? And I had seen that in my own heart and life. And I started shifting and realizing, yeah, busy isn't what he wants for us, because I can be a busy bee and, fluttering around to every flower in the field, but that doesn't mean I'm producing any fruit. Right. And if I'm not producing fruit for the kingdom, what's the point? Right. So really shifted a lot of things about my time and then helping women with that.
Okay. And I love that so much. I can relate to. I knew we were like sisters of another mother. I guess brothers of another. I don't know the thing, but I feel like we're very similarly made by the Lord. Like I'm just going to do what needs to be done. I'm always going to do well. I'll do whatever it takes. Right. But this idea of busyness and replacing it with fruitfulness, I know is a part of your methodology. So I would love for you, if you don't mind, to kind of give us an overview of all those years of learning once that finally realized, and then the Lord, I'm sure, revealing for you, this is what I have for you, Lissa.
Right.
This is what I want you to tell others, your sisters in Christ. Tell me about that.
Well, I think that our busyness, like, it really comes from like a desire to have significance and to, do something. And we tend to, I think, especially as humans, we tend to see the lack, right? And we see how little time we have, how little strength we have, how little energy we have, right? And so time is another one of those areas that we keep focusing on the lack of what we don't have. And we say things like, if I had time, right? Or when I have time, or if only I had time, right? And it doesn't sound like we're complaining, but really, ultimately, we kind of are, and we have a wrong perspective on that. And here's what happens, and here's what I fell into. And I think a lot of women do this as well, is the gurus out there tell us, you just need to be more organized. right? So if you organize your calendar and you've got color-coded time blocks and, everything's going to be great, right? And don't get me wrong, I do teach a time blocking method inside of my program, but it's a different philosophy of how we do it. Or they say you just need a more organized to-do list. You need the right app or the right highlighters or the right, message board on your kitchen wall or whatever, right? But we all know, like, for example, we organize that closet and what happens? It doesn't stay organized. It goes from order to disorder. It is the law of entropy. Like, nothing is going to stay like that, right? And the same thing happens when it comes to our time. And so just trying to organize it better isn't fixing the problem, because that's really not the root issue. The root issue is my heart and what I'm ordering it around, right? Am I ordering around trying to, squeeze every little morsel out of every moment that I can, to make me look good or feel good, or to feel like I've accomplished more, checked all the boxes, or done the big thing, or whatever, or am I really seeing my purpose in this bigger picture of what God's created me for and what this is all building towards, right? And what that looks like. And so really just going, yeah, our time is not something we need to be chasing. It's actually something we need to be receiving. It is
Ooh.
a gift from the Lord.
Wait,
Right?
wait. I'm so sorry. You got to say that again, because
Well,
that's
that's great, because I've actually never said that before. So yes, write this down so I can have it again. I said our gift is not something we need to be chasing, I think is how I said it right, but it's
yeah.
something we need to be receiving.
Yes.
Right?
That's
So,
one of your new isms. Okay.
right. Well, I had this revelation in church. I have my best ideas. You should see my bulletins by the end of church, right? And I'm taking notes and paying attention. Believe me, we have an amazing pastor, just like you do. And so I get so much out of our sermons. But yet I also get all these great business ideas and stuff like that when I'm sitting there too. Redeem Her Time was born in the pew, right? So a couple weeks ago, we were studying the Lord's Prayer. Okay, we're in a series on the Sermon on the Mount. Lord's Prayer is one piece of that. And we were talking about, the 6 different requests in there. And our pastor said, when he got to the part of give us this day our daily bread, he said to us, what is your daily bread? Because we live in a day and time, I'm guessing no one listening to this podcast, or very few, are waking up each morning going, I hope I have enough bread today. And if I run out, I hope I know where I can get more. Right? We probably have more than we need in our pantry, in our refrigerator, in our freezer. We can, go on Instacart, or maybe we've sworn off bread because we know it's not really adding a whole lot of nutrition. But Jesus' original audience, like, they had to have it for daily sustenance. And so when he asked us that day, what is your daily bread? Immediately I thought, it's my time. Like, I don't wake up and every day go, God, please make sure I have enough food in my plate, right? Because it's there. And yes, he's providing it, but it's that time, right? I am dependent on him every day for the gift of that next 24 hours. I can't make any more. I can't borrow from tomorrow. I can't save from yesterday. And I really thought about the Israelites, right? And how God provided manna for them. And they were dependent on him for that daily sustenance every day, and of him putting that in front of him. And so I think when we see our time as a gift, right? Like, God is gifting me another 24 hours. And here's another thing I always say. If he thought you needed 25, guess what? He would have given it to you, but he didn't. I always say, if I just had one more hour in my day, it'd be amazing, right? No, it wouldn't. You'd still waste it in the same ways you do now, right? Nothing would change, because it's not a time issue. It's a heart issue. And yeah, like, do I really see, am I dependent on him like the Israelites were for that manna, around my time, and then when it's a gift, and we know that ultimately it's not just for us, it's to build his kingdom. Now we become stewards of it, right? So now I've received the gift. Now I'm stewarding the gift, investing the gift. I'm not going to frivolously waste it on all these random things that we waste all of our time on in these days, because I know it's building towards something bigger.
That's just so, just drink that in, ladies. Go back and rewind this right now. That is just so good. So when you think about that, yeah, if somebody were to give you, what I'm just trying to think of an analogy. Why does it seem so easy and okay to waste time? I think it's well-intentioned, where we may, and I don't want to judge anyone, but hey, I'll judge myself on this one. But like, if it's like, I really wanted to, I don't know, work on a freebie or something. I'm just throwing out an example. And I really wanted to do that. And I wanted to get that done today. And it was on my list. I took 3 hours on my list to do it. But you know what? I got a phone call from Aunt Jane, and then a neighbor stopped by, and then I kind of didn't feel good. So I took a little nap or something. Like, it just seems like, I know I had it on my calendar, but it's really no big deal if I blow myself off, kind of thing, right? So what would be your reaction to that? And then if you can give us an idea of, if this is our inclination to waste time, what are some things we could think about to really start thinking about it in the right way?
Yeah, I love that. Right. I think it's because it's not tangible. Right.
Mm,
Like, and think about even this. I equate a lot of times time and money very similarly, right? Because Jesus talked so much about money, right? And it's really a resource that we're to invest and steward. So there's so much parallels. And
yeah.
even now in a digital age where cash hardly even touches my hands, it's always a card or just a click now. You don't even have to like put your card number in. That's really scary, right? Just boom, there it goes. And it's not until the credit card statement goes that you're like, oh, look how much I spent. I think we're just seriously, grossly underestimating how much time we are giving away every day to less important things. Yeah, it may be 5 minutes here, it may be 15 minutes here, it may be that scroll binge that ended up taking an hour there. I mean, it can be all kinds of things. And it doesn't mean they're all wrong or bad, but it does have a cumulative effect and it takes our focus and our time away from those things that we said mattered. And so, yeah, it is this like, how do I see this as something, not I'm being miserly with it. Now I'm going to hold it so tightly and I'm going to be so uptight about my time and anybody who interrupts my plan, you're going to get the wrath of Lissa, right? Like we're not going for that, but it's like, how do I make it tangible? And one of the ways I did that, so here's my teacher and me coming out, because I'm like, I have to have visuals. Like I need some kind of way to do this. And so I've actually got these jars next to my desk and I've got 100 marbles between the two jars because Lord willing, I'm going for 100 years. I had one grandma go to 102. I had another grandma go to 98. So if I split the difference, I'm going right down the middle for 100, right? And
Wow.
so I put the marbles in there, right? Because this is my way of like making time more like I can actually touch it. And so the one jar is the years that I've already lived. And this year it's interesting. I just turned 50. So right now my marble jars are equal, but like next year I'll start officially like fully losing my marbles because the one will be more than the other, right? But okay, so when I look at my time in the past, I can't go back and change any of those marbles that are in that past jar, right? And there were a lot of joys in that time, but there was a lot of hard things. It was not easy being a military wife. I will just say that and leave it there, right? And yet it's part of what God gave me, right? And what's brought me to where I am today. So I can only look back and be grateful, right? Because beating ourselves up with the shoulda, woulda, couldas about our time is not going to change anything. And I think a lot of us waste way too much time on those things, right? The what ifs, right? And then there I go again, right? Okay, just let it go. Can't go back and change it, right? The other jar, I can't do anything about, right? I don't know what the next 50 years, Lord willing, are going to hold. Maybe he's going to give me 52. Maybe I only get two, who knows, right? I can just have faith about those years. And I'm not going to worry about them, right? Because that's wasting time too. Why am I going to spend time making up a story in my head about something that hasn't even happened yet? Like that's not a great use of time at all, right? The only thing I can do is touch the one moment that I have. And so I leave one marble out, like this is the time I'm in right now. And so it's that visible, tangible reminder, what am I doing in this moment? And redeem her time came from Ephesians 5, which says, look carefully then how you live. There's intention in that. I have to look carefully,
Mm.
not as unwise, but as wise. In other words, I can be unwise with my time, or I can be wise, redeeming the time, which some versions say, or making the best use of it. Why? I love this because these are difficult days. Amen to difficult days, right? Like this side of heaven, it's just going to be difficult days. And yet, here's the thing, God could have whisked us off to heaven, at any time. And yet, for whatever reason, he's giving us the time that we have, 1,440 minutes, in a day, right? Like, okay, so it must be important to him that I do something with this time that I have.
Yeah.
And so really being able to look at like, okay, I'm going to be grateful for the past. I'm going to have faith for the future, and I'm going to redeem the moment that's in front of me. Right.
Mm.
And so then I've got even that as a screensaver that I offer inside my community. And I have so many women that tell me they pick up their phone because this is our number one distraction right now. Right. And they see that screensaver with that Ephesians 5 verse and they go, you know what? What I'm about to do is not redeeming my time. I'm going to put it down and go invest it somewhere else. So it's keeping it top of mind and remembering, yeah, is this really something I want to get my time and attention? Or is this really building something that's going to last? Or is this just me frittering it away?
That is so good. And okay, that's just so amazing. So I equate with time productivity,
Hmm.
right? And by that, I mean that we can spend an hour being very productive and getting something done. Or we can spend an hour kind of getting ready to get ready to get ready. And all of a sudden we're like, wait, I didn't even accomplish anything. So I was just curious what comments you had on that, because I think time and productivity, we think they go together, but not necessarily in that
Not
regard.
necessarily. So I've coined the phrase purposivity, right? Because productivity is I'm just trying to produce more, which there is a healthy kind of productivity, right? We want to produce things in our business, but am I being purposeful with my time, right? That's different than I'm just being productive and doing something, right? I think, and one of the things that I really talk with women around is multitasking is what they tell us to do to be more productive. Well, just do this while you do this, while you do this, and you'll get more into that 1 hour that you have before the hubby comes home or before, the meeting starts or whatever. And yet, if you're like me, the pot boiled over, I got in an argument with my husband and the dog, ran away. If I would have just paid attention to one thing at a time, but we think multitasking is our superpower. And what I teach women, because I've learned this myself, it's really our kryptonite. It really weakens us because it spreads us so thin that no one and nothing gets enough of us to really make any difference. And wouldn't the enemy love to keep us ineffective and spread way too thin? Right?
Oh my gosh. Okay. You're blowing me away with these mic drop moments. That's it. Multitasking is our kryptonite. And the enemy loves us to multitask. And you know what? I I think I always felt great multitasking, meaning that, oh, I can do a lot at once. My brain's pretty powerful. I can do these things. But as I got older, I realized just what you said. Multitasking can be a blessing, but I think more than not, it's a curse, because then we feel almost guilty then if I'm just doing one thing. It's almost like, oh, I should do more. Wait a minute. No, no, no. You're killing yourself. You're like overdoing um and accomplishing very little, you
Yeah.
know.
And that guilt thing is really real. I have people tell me all the time, I feel guilty when I'm with my family that I'm not working on my business. And I feel guilty when I'm working on my business that I'm not with my family.
Yeah.
And so here's what I truly believe. If you are intentional about where your time is going and you know that your important things all have a place in your day or your week, right? I don't have to feel guilty when I'm not doing that other thing because it already has a place where it lives. And when I get to that, it's going to get my full focus. Right? It's when we try to just kind of squeeze everything in randomly when we feel like it, or when it pops in our mind, all of a sudden now it's the thing I have to go run do, that then everything gets all, kind of jumbled up together and nothing. Yeah, of course you're going to feel guilty because nothing's getting really, really much of you. And so
Yeah.
that's something that I just really teach women. And one of the other things too is blocking off time to not be doing, right? I think sometimes we think, whether it's in our business or whether it's in our roles as a wife or a mom or a caretaker of our aging parents or, the ministry leader or whatever, we think we always have to be doing something for someone, right? From the minute we get up, until the minute we go to bed. And yet we're running on empty, right? And so I tell women, I know you already don't feel like 24 hours is enough. So guess what? I'm going to tell you to take an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, ideally, and set that aside too as refill time. And then you can figure out how to fit everything else into the time in between, plus get the sleep you need. And they look at me like, what? But here's what happens. Kingdom math is opposite, right, of the world's math. Because you take that time away to refill body, mind, spirit before your day, it changes everything about your focus and where your time goes throughout the day. And you do that again at the end, not scrolling and binging up until the minute you go to bed or working on the project. I've made that mistake. And then I lay there because I can't sleep because all the ideas and whatever are going through my head, right? You take that time at the end of the day, right? So that your body can actually like come down, your mind comes down, you can actually sleep. And it's amazing how much more productive in the healthy way those hours are in between because you are full. It's like if your laptop is dying, your phone is dying, you're not just going to let it dying. You're going to plug it in, right? Why don't we do this? Why don't we plug in, right? The best place to plug in is to the Lord, of course.
Well, listen, this is just so amazing. I encourage everyone listening it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't believe what Lissa is saying, then think about how you live your life right now. Is that working? Probably not. And so just like when I coach my clients, of which Lissa is one, we're going to talk about that in just a second. When someone is an expert and they tell you what feels impossible is possible, then you have a decision to make. I'm either going to poo-poo that and just reject it because it just doesn't sound right. Even though, as you said, God is countercultural, counterintuitive, all of that. His math is just all different. Or you can choose to go all in. And that's why someone like yourself and someone like myself is so highly valuable, because we see God has revealed to us a new way. which seems like it's too good to be true, but it's because God gave it to us. So let's talk about that for a second. You jumped in to the Joyful Six Figures Accelerator. I think it was January 25th. It was really recent. And talk about some of the challenges you were experiencing. You just finished someone's program and you told me that it was really great for that, but that you felt like you were missing something. Tell me about kind of that period.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was the end of September. And I had spent first quarter of 2023 really optimizing my podcast, which was so good, building out my first iteration of my coaching program, which was a huge accomplishment, bringing in my first clients, right? Going through that, even creating a follow-up program on the fly, because at the end of 12 weeks, they were like, Lissa, we still need you. So like, okay, Lord, what do I do with them now? Right. And I literally was at this point where I was ready to kind of like expand a little bit of what I was doing, but I was just thinking like this much, right? And so I remember getting on a call with you, right? And I had this all laid out. I'm already working with my website designer. I've got it all mapped out, and the web page is almost ready to go live. And and I was looking at this, and you just looked at me and you were like, Lissa, this is so much bigger than that. And what are you believing that God can do, right? And so I remember kind of, you really challenging me on what this could be, versus I felt like I had to stay inside this box of, well, this is how big my audience is, and this is how much experience I have, and this is whatever. So I can only charge this much and offer this. And you really just helped me to see beyond that. And it all started with believing, yeah, that God had equipped me for this, and that I was the expert who could help women get the transformation they weren't getting from anywhere else. Like you said, right? All the experts and things they've tried, the programs, the planners, the All Start Monday or January 1st plans that weren't ever working or lasting. And that I really could be that person. And it blossomed literally almost overnight into a 12-month experience that women are so excited to be a part of. And, and I'm starting all of that now here in the new year, and just, yeah, super excited about where that's going. And it just crazy how fast it went from like 0 to 60, even with what I had going.
Yeah. So I want to give just a little bit more context. So I so remember that phone call, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? This is like amazing. This is like a full-blown thing. And I think, if I remember correctly, and I want you to help me on this, that some of the things we did together is we got really clear on your best client. I think you had a pivot with that.
Yeah.
We kind of expanded a little bit or refined your offer, including increasing the price. And then, you just kind of, I guess, got more clarity about your method. You had a beautiful methodology, and now we really went all in. So tell me your perspective on that, on these tweaks, which really are relatively minor, but they made a world of difference.
Well, it's interesting. I remember coming on that call with you. I just come through your 5-day workshop series. And I came on already deciding I wasn't going to say yes. I was already deciding I can't. And I have a legit reason. My husband is rowing the ocean as we speak, and he is taking a leave of absence from work to do it. And so, yeah, we're not getting that income for some time that he's gone. So I really did have that. But you helped me make such a shift just on that first phone call, of really looking at my best client and who she was, and how it was way too general. I was talking to every Christian woman in the world, which is great. And yet, right, it wasn't really standing out to her to make her say, oh my goodness, I need this. And so, yeah, so you just showing me how to, like, what that looked like. And that was just the first level. And then you challenged me to take it down even deeper, a second level, which I resisted at first, but then I was like, okay, like prayed about it, took it to the chairman of the board. Okay, I could see this. And then it just, like, as soon as I was willing to let go of that, it's like the floodgates opened, right? And then it was just like the Holy Spirit was just downloading all the ideas and all the things that needed to be part of it to help her with her specific needs, instead of trying to be this plain vanilla, and serve everybody.
Right, right. And so you just came off a beautiful launch, and I want you to talk about this, and I do want to set this up. So Lissa shared with me recently that until she jumped into the program, she made about 5K. And tell them where you are now with your launch. The bet you've like 7 or 8x your investment,
Yeah.
right?
So I did this 5-day workshop the beginning of December. So to date, I'm now at 37,000 and some odd change. Just from that. Yeah. Right. And like, that's in less than a month, right? Less than a month, but it was getting clear on who it was, what it was, and then what's going to give her the best transformation experience. And not being afraid, because I did have somebody say 12 months, really? Who's going to commit to that? And I said, you know what? The person who really wants to finally change the fact that she's tired of being busy all the time and not really getting anywhere in her life or her business. She knows it's going to take time because she didn't get there overnight, and she's not going to fix things overnight either.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh, so good. So $37,500. And you can tell me if this is going too deep, but you shared it with your husband. I don't know how you guys are communicating when he's literally roaring on some ocean or something, but you shared with him what's happened in your launch, almost a $40,000 launch. And I just, for those that have husbands out there that may be doubtful, because maybe your husband was also doubtful about this, what is he saying now?
Yeah. Well, without telling the whole story, there was a time when he was like ready to walk away from our marriage because of my business. And I knew it wasn't the business. I knew that wasn't the issue. Right. And so it was really hard because not only was he not supportive, he was very antagonistic for a long period of time. And I just kept trusting the Lord and kept going to the Lord. And so, yeah, today when he called in the sat phone and he's like, I'm praying for you. I know you're working really hard at this business. And I was like, yeah. And guess what? One more person came in today and here's where we're at now. And he just started crying. And he's just like, I'm so proud of you. You are working so hard. And yet it's not just me, right? It's the Lord, and it's the wise women like you that I have around me. And so just, to hear him in that other place, now he's got a lot of time to talk to the Lord while he's rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. So let's be honest, right? But yeah, to hear him say that and just really applauding what's going on and seeing the diligence that's being put in, the fruit that is coming out of it. And what he said too, I didn't tell you this earlier, but he goes, I know you're making a difference in their lives. Whereas before he was always like, why do you spend more time with complete strangers than you do your own family? Was that. And so for him to see this is making an eternal difference, like, yeah, keep going.
So good. So good. So what has it been like you jumped in and you had some hesitation too, but look what you've done in just a couple of short months. So what has made all the difference in this shift, both in your thinking and in the way you show up as a CEO and an expert and in the revenue that's generated? Why are you being so successful?
Well, I thought that the answer was going to be you were going to give me the right formula and the right step by step and all of that. And while you have given me a lot of that, right, there has been a lot of that. The deeper work has been the belief in who I am in Christ, but also who I am as an expert, as a time management coach, and what sets me apart from every other time management coach that's out there that's, just focusing on a calendar or a to-do list or a spreadsheet or whatever else. So I think that belief piece and I firmly believe find someone who's further down the road, right? Ideally where you want to get to next. And when they tell you to do something, block out the other noise. So I unfollowed podcasts. I got myself off other email lists from other people that I'd been following. And I was like, I'm all in, right? Like, what is it that I need to do? And I just leaned in and listened and applied and did it. And sometimes I didn't have every detail figured out, but that's okay. I just trusted the Lord was going to guide that as I went. Even up until like the week before, I was going to do everything recorded, and God said, nope, do it live. And that was the best decision I could have ever made because it brought the interaction and it brought that connection with the people who joined me for that. And even those who watched and listened to the replays. So yeah, it's just been a lot of walking by faith and like, okay, I'm just going to trust the process and trust those who are ahead of me like you.
Yeah, I will say the faith aspect, I bet any money that you feel closer to Christ now than
For
you
sure.
did even. Yeah. And I know you love the Lord Jesus Christ with all your heart. And it's the incorporating him, not only just kind of making him a part of the business, he is the business. He is the center of the business. And so that makes all the difference. And then what you said, I didn't think I'd talk about this, but now that you raised it, I believe that when we straddle more than one methodology, we're really reducing the percentage of time that it's going to work, because then we get confused. Oh, wait, I'm thinking about this salesperson over here and I'm thinking of this marketing whatever over there. So that's a beautiful thing. Anyone listening and you're struggling, how focused are you on one process? My process works, and Lissa is a testament to that. Okay, let's just talk for just one more second about the experience inside. What is that like being in a community of believers? And talk a little bit about the one-to-one touch that you got with me inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially as a solopreneur who's doing a lot of things behind a screen, it's very easy to feel like you're alone. And so I think having a group of like-minded women who we've all got our own, businesses we're growing and everything looks a little bit different. And yet there's this connection that's been super helpful. And one of the things I've really loved is just the time and attention that you have given to me, even inside of the group, right? Where I have submitted things for your feedback and gotten a 20-minute, reply via a video of, of what your thoughts and ideas and things like that were. Or where I've worked through, one of the belief maps and, and submitted that to you, and you took the time to really help walk me through that and it wasn't just, oh, great job, Lissa, and just a quick thing for me. It was really taking the time to go into it and really to understand and know who I am and what my business is, so that you can really help me on a personal level, and not just be like, well, just do the module, right? Like sometimes it's just, yeah, we just make it so cookie cutter for everybody.
Yeah. And I know you had mentioned earlier that you had worked with other coaches. What would be, just one or two things that you found different in this experience with me inside the accelerator?
Yeah, well, I think that personal touch is the biggest thing, because when you're in so many of these programs, like half the time you never even talk to the coach. I was in one where I did have opportunities inside of a group setting to have some interaction there, but it wasn't the same as getting some one-on-one, type of things. And that person really understanding exactly where I was in my business and what my goals were and what the process was that I was learning directly applied to what I was doing. And so yeah, the fact that you take the time to understand that and to help us right where we're at really just is head and shoulders above just here's my great program that, has worked for thousands of people. Come, jump in the pond with everybody else.
Thank you for that, because I will always hold true that that's the differentiator. By God's grace, I have a brain that holds a lot of information and I remember stuff, and I know all of my clients. And as you said, I know your businesses. I feel like I need to do that. I need to know that much in order to best guide you. And because like you said, every business is different. It is not, I do not do cookie cutter. There are some basic principles and things, but in order for me to help you create a launch different than somebody else, I need to know your goals and all that. So that's wonderful. All right. Well, as we wrap up, you're amazing and you're offering our listeners something special. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I talked earlier about how we need to take that time to refill, right? And I'm guessing that there's someone listening, or maybe a lot of people listening, who are like, I don't got time for that. And I just want to tell you, you don't have time not to, because if you keep pushing like you are from sun up to sundown, you're going to keep getting the same results and being exhausted all the time and still not feel like you got enough done or had the time you need. And so I put together a guide called the Fill Your Cup First Guide, because I want to give women permission. It's not selfish to take time to fill up body, mind, spirit, because it's what allows us to pour out. If we have nothing to give, right, then I think that's the selfish thing. So this is a guide that comes along with a coaching video to help you to walk through, okay, what would this look like? And how in the world am I actually going to do this? Because I've got a really busy life. And so where would this even fit? And what does this look like for me? What's refilling for me? And how do I get started with that? So you can find that at redeemhertime.com. It's right up at the very top. And if it's your first time on the website, of course, it'll pop up right away. But yeah, it's called the Fill Your Cup First Guide. And that's a great place to start with redeeming your time by filling up first.
Amazing. Well, I suspect my listeners are like, I need more of Lissa. So they're going to go grab that. But where is another great place for them to find you and maybe connect?
Yeah. So my podcast is where I love to hang out a couple times a week, called Redeem Her Time. So I invite you to come over there. And I also have a free community. I purposely built it off of Facebook because I'm a time management coach that helps people with distractions. And I felt like I didn't want to send people to where there are so many distractions. And so I've got a free community. If you go to redeemhertime.com/community, you can come in there, come join the conversation. I give a lot of teaching and tips and truth and tools and resources and interaction and some individualized coaching in there as well. And you can also check out the opportunity to be part of my 12-month program as well.
Excellent. We're going to have all those links in the show notes. So ladies, be sure to check that out. All right, Lissa, we're going long here, but this is so good. I'd love to continue another hour, but unfortunately I can't. Is there anything on your heart that you would love to leave us with? Any pearls of wisdom as we end?
Yeah. I mean, I think so often we feel like all there is the what's here right now, right? And we may just get really frustrated with but there's still always someone or something who needs my attention. And it just feels like I'm never going to get past this. And one of the verses that God brought to me last year is from 2 Corinthians 9:8. And it says, and God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. I was an English teacher. There are a lot of superlatives in there, which mean like really big adjectives, right? Like he is the God of abundance. And so instead of looking at the lack, the time you don't think you have, looking at the abundance that he has already promised, and truly believing that he has given you all the time you need for what he's called you to. And then, yeah, stepping out and redeeming that.
That is excellent. That's a beautiful way to end. Lissa, thank you so much for sharing here on the show. And thank you for being a beautiful friend and client. And may God bless you richly, sister.
My pleasure.
All right. Ladies, thank you for listening. If you've loved this episode and you have not yet left a review, please take a moment, just a moment, and do that now. And make sure you connect with Lissa. As you know, as you just listened to, this is someone that I don't even know. Like I was blown away on this thing, and I'm not easily blown away. So you definitely want to connect with Lissa and implement. Because last thing I'll say is this: a lot of learning, great, but doing, implementing what you are learning is when you're going to have these shifts that Lissa's experienced and that I'm talking about 24/7. So thank you again for listening. Lissa, thank you. And we will see you next time. Mwah. God bless.